Alright, now I should have started making this video sooner, but it just kind of occurred to me. I got this, basically I've got this acoustic which I decided was going to be my acoustic for playing slide on. And so what I did was, when I got it, I decided I wanted it to have a higher nut, so the strings would be nicely clear of the frets for playing slide. And so I got this nut extender with it, Grover one, which works great because all it does is, when the nut's in place, as you can see I've already done some work here, which I should have started recording before, anyway. So it works great because when the nut's in place, the nut extender just sits on top of the nut like that, raising the strings up, so you can play dobro style slide and be nice and clear of the frets, and it sounds wonderful. It sounds fantastic. The thing is though, if you look at the nut extender, if I can get a good shot on this, I'm not sure I can, hang on, there we are. So look at the nut extender, it's very, very high, which is fantastic if what you're wanting is that just slide thing. But I've done some playing like that, which is something I've never really done before, and I found that I don't like it. I like it when I can play slide, but I can also fret some notes. And this nut extender just makes the strings way too high to fret any notes, which is what it's meant to do. So, so what I'm doing is, I've taken this nut off, and I'm going to attempt to make it a taller nut. Now I suppose I could go online and see if I can order a nut and get a taller one, but I just had this idea that if I get a piece of scratch plate material, which is sort of so thick, and if I roughly cut out a shape that's the same size as the nut and then glue it to the bottom, and then I should be able to cut around it, file it down, and make it basically just a taller nut. Bit of super glue and everything, and then I've got some proper wood glue to attach this back on. Will wood glue work with the scratch plate material? Well, we'll soon find out, won't we? Okay, so that's my plan. So time to do a bit of cutting, see what we can make of this. Right, so I've roughly cut out this piece of scratch plate material, very roughly I might add, and I'm no handyman, so you know, rough is, when I say rough I mean rough, but my idea is it will be easier to shape it, to get it to exactly the right size. Once it's attached to the nut with some glue, it'll be easier to work with. So I'm just going to kind of glue this on the bottom of here, let it set, and then I should be able to, as one piece, just file it round and make it the right size. Alright, so some time ago I removed the handle from this very cheap quality file that I bought at Wilkinson's, so that I could put it flat on a surface and do things like filing the bottom of a bridge, of a saddle flat, things like that, and also nuts. So this little piece of scratch plate material that I cut to put under this nut, I cut slightly too big on all sides, and I've filed down, there's a little bit more to come off there, filed down nearly all of the excess. I'm not going to do a video of me filing, because that would be really, really tedious to watch, I'm sure. But basically I've just got a little bit more to take off down one side of this nut, and then we'll be ready to put it on the guitar. Alright, so I've finished filing my nut extension. This Vintage VE900 has a nice little drop my nut. Nice little channel cut away where the nut sits, as do most guitars of this kind. And because I've filed this perfectly, if I just pop that in the slot there, it sits in. It hardly needs any glue on it really. And of course the strings go a long way to holding the nut in perfect position. But I'm just going to stick a little bit of super glue on the back of this, put the strings straight on. It occurs to me now that I've just kind of guesstimated how much height to add to this nut. I just used a piece of scratch plate material that's like about 2.5mm thick, and I thought, you know, the action was very low when I got this acoustic, for an acoustic guitar off the shelf. It was very low, and so I thought, you know, 2.5mm, raise the action for slide playing, but still able to fret. Yeah, that should be about right, because this is how I do these things. I don't approach mods too scientifically. I like to just kind of feel my way with them. But looking at the nut as it is now, it looks a little higher than I'm going to need it to be. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bang one of these. I'm going to bang a low E on from a Rotor Sound Jumbo King set, size 13, and just test it, just see what it's like. Alright, so sticking the string on was the very best thing to do, because I've discovered two things. First of all, the action is a little higher with this nut, not massively, but it could do with a little bit taking off it. The main thing is when I'm fretting down here, I'm getting some buzz, and that's going to be increased when all the strings are on, because the other 5 strings will pull the neck a little more this way, and so that will mean that the clearance of these frets here will be worse than it is with just one string. But also, what I'm finding is probably not possible to tell from a video picture like this, but the saddle is too low, because the string is closer to the frets here than it is up here. So I'm going to raise the bridge with a little technique I learned a while ago, just slightly, and bring the nut down a little. So filing a bit off the bottom of here, and raising this probably, oh, I don't know, another guesstimate, 1.5mm or something. Alright, so the way that I'm going to raise this saddle is this. A couple of years ago I got an electro-acoustic bass, and when I was playing it plugged in, I noticed that some of the strings were louder than others, and having done a bit of research, I found that that meant that either the saddle was uneven underneath, or the tension of the strings pushing down on that saddle was insufficient to make it really press down onto the pickup, which just lays underneath that saddle. So what I did was, I checked the bottom of the saddle, and it was in fact perfectly flat. So I simply took it out, and underneath the pickup that lays inside, you can probably just see the bronzeness of it if I just turn it into the light. I just kind of raised that pickup up, and underneath it I put a tie wrap, which I cut, just cut to the shape of this slot. So it might sound like a bit of an experimental bodge, but actually it worked beautifully, and the bass has sounded phenomenal ever since, and the volume across all the strings is perfect. So I'm going to try that here. It's basically the same thing as using the shim, but to accommodate the fact that there's a pickup in here. Right, I've cut this tie wrap to size, so which was a little more difficult than on the acoustic bass because the slot is narrower, so it meant slicing down one side of the tie wrap to make it thinner. So just raise the pickup, slot the tie wrap in to the slot underneath that pickup, and oh, it's slightly too long. I can probably just snip that from here. There. Okay. Now, the thing is to make sure that's pressed down all the way down to the bottom of the slot. Then make the pickup lay on top of it and press that down. Okay, so now this bridge sitting on top of the... Get in there. What are you being awkward for? Honestly. Yes, so now the bridge sitting in this slot should be about 1.5 mm higher than it was. Once again, a guesstimate, you know, and that should, I think, be about right. We'll soon see. Right, so I've filed down the nut now about 1 mm and used a small square file to get in there and get rid of all the super glue from before, and I stuck it back down now. And so the bridge is raised about 1.5 mm, and my guesstimate is that should be about right. So I'm just going to give this nut a few minutes to for the glue to dry up, and then I'm going to chuck these strings on, see what happens. Alright, so I've wound up with something pretty close to what I wanted. I wanted an acoustic guitar that had action high enough for playing slide on, but low enough action that I could fret it. Obviously there's a compromise between the two things, and I'd rather have the slide so that it's not all too rattly. And I don't mind if the action's a bit high for the fretting, because there's going to be a lot more slide work going on than fretting, I would imagine. But the idea is really so that I can do that sort of thing and get the slides in as well. So. That sort of thing. I think that maybe the action could go down the tiniest bit more, but another thing to consider, and I do mean the tiniest bit, another thing to consider is I've put a heavier gauge of strings on this guitar than it came with, and so the slots could maybe do with just cutting out a little bit more. The other thing is I could maybe just live with it a little while, see how I get on with it, and if I still think the action could go down a little bit, then maybe just next time I change the strings, I'll whip that nut off, take a few shavings off and put it back on, and we should be just about there, I think.